the service on Turkish Airways, I can't say enough about. Great experience.
People don't realize how big Turkish Airlines is.
A large part of Spain's GDP is generated from tourism. It's probably their number one industry.
The one thing about Vegas now is that the food is, much better than it used to be years ago. And there are interesting restaurants there.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mike Putman.
Well, hey there, stranger. I'm James Ferrara, everybody. And Mike and I have been far-flung around the globe, which is what we do. But we've been traveling so much, we haven't seen each other in a while and haven't been able to land in the same place, same time, or at least online even. So we miss you guys. We did tell you we'd be off a little bit during the summer, taking care of business like this, but we're coming together whenever we can.
Yeah, we're back. We're back now, live and in action, and happy to be with you guys. So we've got a lot of topics to cover today, James. Your travels, my travel. Talk about over-tourism in places, as well as talk about this fantastic giveaway that we're providing.
Our cruise giveaway. That's right, Mike. We've teased it out for a while that it is a 7-day luxury cruise to an incredible landscape, a great destination, some of the most beautiful scenery you will see. And it is with the cruise line that almost owns this particular destination, and it's for two, and it's in a balcony cabin, so you can step outside and enjoy this great view and the wildlife and so on. And did we tell everyone last time where exactly we were going? I think we did.
Yeah, we did. So this is a cruise to Alaska, and using the correct cruise vernacular, it's a balcony stateroom, not a cabin. A cabin is what you associate if you're in the woods and you have to go outside to pee in a little house. That's a cabin.
It's true. We're not going to put you in a little box. We are going to put you in the stateroom. The other thing we used to say outside stateroom, and then one day someone said to me, "Well, it makes it sound like you're hanging on the outside of the ship," and that just means ocean view.
There is no better way to experience Alaska, certainly for the first time, than a cruise. And there's no more scenic way to see Alaska other than having your own private balcony. And that's what you're going to get with this fantastic prize should you win.
And you're going to travel up the Inside Passage and places like Ketchikan and Juneau and Glacier Bay, Denali National Park. I mean, just incredible.
It is. And if you're lucky enough, you might see one of the ice glaciers calving, which sounds like not a big deal, but when you're up close to it and you understand the gravity and the size of these structures, and you can hear, you're out in the middle of this calm sea, and then all of a sudden you hear this thunderous roar, and a part of a glacier, which might be the size of the Eiffel Tower, falls into the sea, and it's maybe a quarter of a mile from you. It is an astounding, life-changing event. It was for me, at least.
And of course, the season is, essentially the summertime from April or May till through September. And you're not going to Alaska in the cold weather, obviously. Although it's cool, it's comfortable. It doesn't get very hot, but it's very beautiful. And they call Alaska the Great Land for a reason. The scenery is incredible. It's really life-changing trip, really a lifetime memory. And we have not, until this point, told you which cruise line it is. So we're ready to do that, Mike?
Let's do it.
All right. And so you will be, if you're a lucky winner, you will be cruising with Princess Cruise Lines, the premium cruise line that is really known for its Alaska itinerary. And you want to be in good hands when you go to Alaska. And these are great hands to be in when you cruise in Alaska. And we have many ways you can enter this, as you know. You go to our website, notouristallowed.com. You click on the cruise promotion. and you can enter your name multiple times by doing several things listed there, entering for our newsletter and so on. Get your name in as many times as you can, which of course increases your chances of winning. And we're going to do a drawing a little bit later in the summer.
Yeah, towards the end of the summer, where one lucky winner will be able to invite a guest of their choice to go on this fantastic cruise. So get your entries in, folks. Take advantage of no tourist allowed and our generosity to our listeners. So hopefully you get more than just an opportunity to win a free prize by listening into the podcast. Hopefully you pick up on some travel tips and some do's and don'ts and some of the experience that James and I have been able to uncover over our vast years of traveling and being in the travel business.
Now, there's a lot in the news right now about travel, Mike, but before we get to that, I think let's start with your rovings the last month or so.
Yeah, so I've been to 3 conferences in the last I think since the last podcast. One was in Dallas, which was a subscription event, not necessarily tied to travel per se, but the type of travel that we deal in has a subscription component. So I was there for that for a few days, came home for 3 nights, and then left for Panama and not Panama, Florida, but Panama. And, it was my first time going to Panama, James. You've been there before, I imagine.
Oh, I've been through the canal.
Oh, okay. But, yeah, it was a great experience, lovely, warm people. Stayed in Panama City, stayed in, it's surprising how many high-rises are in Panama City, to be honest. Quite a few. Metropolitan feel, at least to the architecture and the buildings, and, was hosted by one of our suppliers' hotel beds for a 3-day conference, which was really nice, learned a lot, got to present to the audience, and, but it was very, very good event. Had some nice Argentinian, steak, even though I was in Panama. I was close enough to Argentina, and, had a couple of really nice steaks, and just enjoyed the experience. The last day I was there, I had a free day. The other days I was in meetings or at social events, and the last day I had some free time, and so I did take a city tour and went out to the Panama Canal as part of that city tour, and got up close to the Panama Canal. And if you ever get a chance to go, it's definitely worth going. It's the Panama Canal, you know, connects the Pacific to the Atlantic. It's a big trade route. It cuts off approximately 3 weeks of travel time for ships going from Asia to Europe or to the East Coast. Having to go through and around the Horn creates quite a bit more travel time. So the canal was built, and there's actually 2 canals there now. There's a traditional canal and one they call it some kind of strange Spanish name like Extra Canal or something. It doesn't really translate all that well, but it's for the larger vessels and the newer cruise ships that go through, but primarily for these heavy, real big cargo containers. But just a fascinating experience to see the technology, back from the early 1900s, the work that was required to do this, the loss of life that was
Mhm.
required to make this happen. And then at the end, they have a movie. What is that brand of movie? Something Max, like a 3D Max. There's some brand for it. But yeah, this
Oh,
um,
like, IMAX.
IMAX, thank you. Yeah, this IMAX movie, which is narrated by Morgan Freeman, and it's a 40-minute thing, and it is just done so tastefully and just beautiful scenery. It was a great experience. So really enjoyed that, and then after that went to Old Town Panama City and had a really wonderful tour there and saw some very old cathedrals and some other bits of history. Got to see where Noriega lived, which is now a Sofitel, by the way,
Mm.
out on the water. And got to do a little bit of shopping for the family, and I had a wonderful lunch at a place right across from the Sofitel, beautiful French restaurant, and just had a wonderful time. Had a wonderful
That's excellent. Morgan Freeman narrates everything. I think in my head, Morgan Freeman narrates parts of my life. So he's everywhere.
Guess so.
Yeah, well, that's really cool. So would you say that Panama, your experience of it was very, like, metropolitan? Did you feel the tropical side of it at all? Did you get out
Well,
to,
I
like
cer no, I didn't. I mean, I felt the tropical heat, and there is heat and humidity, for sure. But no, I mean, I got to see the Pacific side, but I didn't get out to the, beach I would call them beach resort region, but I do understand we did have a presentation from the, tourism board while I was at the conference, and I did get to see a lot of that scenery through video and
Yeah.
presentation, but,
Very popular with Americans, Panama. There's certainly a very interesting history between the United States and Panama, and the building of the canal and everything that came after that. But a lot of expatriate Americans there,
and
and
living there
so
too. There's
yeah,
actually a big American and British, community as well.
yeah. So interesting destination that we don't talk about very much. And then, after Panama, you were over in Europe, right?
Yeah, so from Panama, I had, a couple of days in between conferences, and so I took a Turkish Air flight to Istanbul. I had never been to, Turkey or Istanbul, so I went over there for about 36 hours. It was a 12-hour flight from Panama to Istanbul, but it was a very, very comfortable flight, I might say. It was, the service on Turkish Airway, I can't say enough about. It's the first time I've flown Turkish.
Great.
And, yeah, it was great experience, and, arrived into, Turkey, and I was fairly refreshed after being on a 12-hour flight, and, hired a guide, prearranged a guide and a driver, and, did a private tour, of Istanbul, and, it was, I'm certainly glad I went. It's part of the cradle of civilization. There's so much history there. It was just a lot to take in. My guide he kept rattling off dates like every second sentence would be another date. And after about 4 or 5 hours of that, I kind of went date numb. But there's a lot to see in Istanbul. Beautiful mosque now, some that were cathedrals before that have been turned into mosque. A lot of artifacts. Went to they called it a religious museum that had supposedly the staff of Moses. I say that when my tour guide was there with me, that's the way he introduced it.
Mhm.
He said, like, "All right, so Moses was here, like, 6,000 years ago. So here's this piece of wood that they say is the staff of Moses. Maybe it is, maybe it didn't." Uh, but they had, John the Baptist, arm that was covered in gold and a piece of his skull, and then in that same museum, there was pieces of hair of Muhammad and some case that held his sweater and other things like that. But really very interesting, cross-cultural. There were people there from every nation. It was a great
Yeah,
experience.
incredibly important place, Istanbul, the gateway to Asia, and it was the capital of the Eastern Roman Empire. So there used to be 2 Caesars, one in Istanbul and one in Rome. And it is where the Roman Empire adopted Christianity. So, like, very important place religiously. There are famous mosques. Some of them used to be famous Christian sites. Also, just very, very fascinating place and great food and lovely people. I
Yes,
really like Turkey a lot.
yeah, the food was great. Yeah, the Sophia is the big what is now a mosque that used to be a
Mhm,
Christian. I guess it was a cathedral. I don't
mhm.
yeah, cathedral if it was, a Christian place of worship. I don't know if it was a
Right.
cathedral or not, but technically. But anyhow, this place is huge. I mean, it is massive, bigger than any cathedral I think I've been in. And, they had parts that still had, like, a big thing of Virgin Mary, so maybe I don't know, 80 feet tall into the stonework, and they had kind of somewhat tastefully covered it up because it was now a mosque. And then they had some other things like angels and things that were,
Yeah, sort of
in
mixed
place.
up symbolism because of the
Yeah, but some of
history.
those were uncovered, and for some reason they chose to cover up the Virgin Mary. I guess because you could see it from everywhere. But Yeah, really fascinating place, and I look
Yeah.
forward to going back and spending some more time, but, so I was in
So
Istanbul for
you did that because, it was a strategy, an air strategy of yours, right? To fly Turkish Airlines and then
yeah, yeah, so it
lay
started
over there?
Yeah, it started out as a strategy because I painstakingly spend an enormous amount of time looking for the best price, and it's not worth the amount of time that I do, but I put in it's almost a game to me. So I try to find the best way to do this, and so I found an airfare for $2,300 business class from Panama to Barcelona and then Barcelona to New York. And so I booked the ticket. And then after I booked it, I thought, I'm just changing planes in Istanbul. I've always wanted to go there. Why don't I spend the extra 2 days there rather than Barcelona? And so I went back and changed the ticket, and they allow for a free stopover. And little did I know until I got on the flight is that they'll actually, if you do an in transit stopover like that, they'll actually pay for your hotel room, even if you're in coach. They'll pay for a hotel room and give you a free transfer into Istanbul. And if you're in business class, and they give you a little like a 5-star hotel, but that's included. So I mean, as our listeners know, $2,300 round trip in business class, even if you were going to from New York to Dublin and back would be a
Right.
tremendous deal, but to go all the way to Istanbul and then Barcelona was great, so, yeah.
Yeah, it's a great deal, and, people don't realize how big Turkish Airlines is. It has the largest international flight service of any airline, even though it's not the largest airline in the world, that's now United, but it has the largest international service, believe it or not. So, that opportunity to fly Turkish Airlines through back to Turkey or other destinations and then connect through to your final destination really exists in a lot. There's a lot of
Mm,
that opportunity out there.
yeah, and very good pricing, and I have to say the service was, for business class, as good as I've had.
That's
Really,
great.
yeah, really good. The food they actually have a chef or a guy dressed up as a chef on the plane
A guy
who serves
dressed up
your
as
food. Yeah, I'm not quite sure how much they can cook on a plane, but they do have a chef that takes your order and he brings your food to you, and they've got the carts that have, like, the appetizers, so they come and serve you, "Do you want a piece of this, a piece of this?"
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's really, really
Nice.
yeah, really good, and actually
And
and they had a lot of Turkish wine, and I think I had a couple of different types on the way from Panama to Istanbul. Really high quality wine, very tasty.
great.
Yeah. So
Then you got to Barcelona.
yeah, then Barcelona had, I think 4 or 5 days in Barcelona. There was, Focusrite Europe, which is kind of the top sea-level event for people who are involved in travel and e-commerce specifically. So that was, always a big event. So there's one in the US, which is the largest, and then they have another one Europe and another one in Asia. So I was able to get a lot of information, meet a lot of people, do some great networking in Barcelona. Also went to a really nice restaurant there, had a 13-course meal, which there were very small portions, but it was really, really well done. And yeah, I had a great time. But spent, in Panama and in Barcelona, I spent the majority of my time in conference rooms or, meeting settings. So wasn't a lot of
Well,
down.
look, you were on business travel, but that is a shame in Barcelona where there is so much to see, but you've been there before, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
So
but I like when I go to Barcelona, there's a beach area where you can go out to these seafood restaurants on the beach. It's another part of town. There's beautiful parks and wonderful architecture. The Gaudi, Antonio Gaudi, the architect, his incredible buildings, including the Sagrada Familia, the great cathedral. They're so unique. The design, so, that fluid Art Nouveau style there. But Barcelona is just a great city in general. Like, it's a great walking city, great shopping city, and great eating
yeah,
city. The home of tapas. You
yeah,
can do these tapas tours where the a guide will take you to each tapas bar, and each one is famous for, like, one dish. This tapas bar, you get the mussels. That tapas bar, you get the egg omelet on a toast. This tapas bar, something else. and they take you around, or you do your own. I do my own.
That is a really fun way to see the city as well,
Yeah.
going kind of tapas bar hopping. Even if you don't drink, just going to the having tapas at the different locations is really, really fun.
Well, they'll get you with the sangria because it goes down so easy that tastes good. Well, just, quickly, I was in Las Vegas, which, sort of has a fake version of all these places that Mike went to. The one thing about Vegas now is that the food is, much better than it used to be years ago, and there are interesting restaurants there. So I had dinner at Giada De Laurentiis, the television chef, has a restaurant there that's quite good, actually.
The
And,
girl the girl with the perfect teeth. That
yeah, I mean, she's my secret crush. Not so secret, I just told everyone. But, she's definitely my crush. And then, we went to Peter Luger's one night, which is funny because it's a famous old restaurant from New York, from Brooklyn, and I'm from New York, I live in New York, but I went to Peter Luger's in Las Vegas, which is a very Las Vegas thing to do,
how does it
is to
compare?
go it is very good, but not as good as the New York one, because the New York one is old and dirty, and the waiters are crabby, and it just makes it taste better. So, but we did get an enormous, um, uh, ribeye, on a big bone, like it's enormous tomahawk type steak, which was at least like 40 ounces of steak. So I shared it with our mutual friend Tara, but I had to fight her for my share of the
Yeah,
steak
I was
because
gonna say 40 ounces for you all to share. You
we
say like
had
an
an
appetizer.
excellent wine list there. And we're staying at Caesar's Palace, which has a bunch of good restaurants, but all the hotels do. And there's so many of them now. There are new hotels. I did go down to Resorts World for dinner in Viva by Ray Garcia. It's in the Conrad Hotel in the Resorts World complex. That's a new part of town. And what I really found interesting there is Conrads are all very beautiful, usually very contemporary, very expensive,
Pop
very
the
high
line.
end. And the casino in the Conrad is like white and airy and bright, which is not
Mm.
typically how casinos are. It's very modern and spacious and very light and bright. So I really like that. It's like a new experience. And then it has a bunch of restaurants throughout it, including this Viva by Ray Garcia. It's a Mexican, sort of high end Mexican restaurant. Very, very good. So all the food we had there was great. And a little tip for everyone, when you arrive at these Las Vegas hotels, they're enormous. They have many thousands of rooms. Usually check-in is not fun. You have to wait on a line, and I'm always annoyed by that. I did my damnedest to try to get into the VIP check-in lounge, but it's really reserved for their rated gambling players. So for weeks, I was trying to get that, but I don't have that loyalty status with them for gambling. So I had to go to the regular counter. Turns out the week that we were there was not a big Las Vegas week. Every time I go to Vegas, everything is sold out, everything is packed out, crowds on the streets. It wasn't like that. It was pretty lightly populated. It might have had something to do with the fact that it was 110 degrees every day that we were there. But, so it was an easy check-in, and when I got up to the counter, all of these hotels now offer you upgrades at the counter. If I had done the upgrade, by either reserving a more expensive room or done the upgrade online ahead of time, it would have cost me a lot more. But there at the registration desk, they're wheeling and dealing with you. So, an interesting tip that I have for you now when you go to Vegas is book a kind of standard room, get a good rate, book a standard room, and then when you get there, negotiate with them at the front counter a little bit. They'll whip out photos of the rooms and all kinds of information that they don't have on the website, and they'll don't take their first offer is going to be that's another $200 a night. And then you say, that's more than I was willing to spend. Can you do it for $100 a night? And you'll be amazed. They'll they'll wheel and deal with you. I wound up with, Mike, you're going to laugh, but a 2,000 square foot suite.
Not surprising.
But I did it because we had all these business meetings, and sometimes it's hard to find a private place to sit and talk with people. So I got this big suite with a huge dining room table that seats 8 or 10 people, and, you know, bonus is that I got to stay in it also in
Right.
this suite, but it had 3 bathrooms and all that, and we were able to hold all of our meetings in the suite, so we got good use out of it, and it was all I paid for a basic room plus a small per night upgrade and just chatted up the registration person a little bit, told her what I needed, what I was looking for, what would be helpful for me. We wanted to have these meetings, and she was just very happy to help. So if
That's
it had
awesome.
been a very crowded week, maybe not.
I just don't understand why in Vegas there's always check-in lines. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, that is an easy problem to solve, and,
Well, it took them a little while to go digital. Now you can pre-check in at kiosks and stuff, but it's still not widely used, and it still takes them a little time to deliver the key and make sure your room is ready and so on. It's because they're moving around a lot of people, Mike. On a big move-out day, they've got thousands of people moving out and thousands of people moving in.
but, like, with chains like Hilton and Marriott, you don't even have to go to the front desk. You just tell them when you're gonna get there, and they'll if you're a frequent traveler, and they'll deliver a mobile key,
Yeah.
if you have a credit card on file, and it just seems like, seems like a very easy problem to solve.
They haven't done the mobile key thing for the most part yet in Vegas. Now, I will tell you, we usually talk to you guys about traveling authentically, right? And looking for more off the beaten path type experiences. And I can't really do that with Vegas. There are some things to do in Vegas that are a little off the strip, but basically all of Vegas is, phony, but it's in your face phony. I mean, they don't hide it.
Yeah, they're
And
not
it's
putting makeup on it. It's
right, and it's part of the experience. It's hard to leave the casinos, it's hard to get out of the casinos, to find your way out of the casinos. They've got so much going on now and so many shows and whatnot. So it doesn't really fit into our no tourists allowed ethos, but if you find yourself going there, maybe we can help you with a couple of tips. Um,
exactly.
Mike, you were in Barcelona, and so I've gotta ask you, seeing a lot on the news, did you encounter any demonstrators? Did anyone shoot a water gun at you and say, "Go home"?
It was so hot, I wish they woulda shot a water gun at me, but no, I didn't see any of this. So when I left, I think the next day I was traveling, but I got back home and I saw these reports of these demonstrations that were happening in, Barcelona, but I didn't see any of them. I mean, I just saw people happy and walking around, a lot of beautiful women, but, no, certainly no demonstrations.
Yeah.
And I don't know how, it's a thing very popular for the press to latch onto because it's so it's counterintuitive, right? I mean, you're a tourism destination. A large part of Spain's GDP is generated from tourism. It's probably their number one industry, or certainly number one or number two. And then you have this counterculture that comes out and says tourists go home or what have you. And it's so counter that I think the press latches onto it, and maybe they exaggerate the sentiment of the Barcelonians.
Well, absolutely. It's good headlines, but it's not just happening in Barcelona, right? Last year we had it in Greece. It's happened in Venice to the point where Venice has passed new legislation about how many cruise ships can come in and so on. And it was also happening this week in Paris. So, look, over tourism is a real thing. But I agree with you that many of these places have encouraged the tourism to their own economic benefit. It's just now they feel like they've overdone it. And they shouldn't take it out on the tourists because they invited the tourists there.
That's
But
right.
I understand that it's a real concern. It's pressure on the planet. People want to preserve their quality of life where they're living. They want to preserve the beautiful architecture and parks and so on in Barcelona and elsewhere. They want to preserve the nature, and being having throngs of tourists improperly managed in these places can harm them.
Well, and I
So,
think there's another element to this too, James, is
yeah,
that and this is a more recent thing, is that before this concept of Airbnb, and I'm not speaking specifically about Airbnb, but of this
Hmm.
idea of buying or renting a flat or a home with the intent of leasing it out to short-term renters. Fairly recent, this is a fairly recent phenomenon because there just wasn't the facility to rent this out pre-Airbnb. What it's doing is, and I think this is the primary grief or beef of
One of
those
them, yeah.
people of protesting, is that the cost of real estate to rent an apartment, to rent a flat, is going up, and it's going up because investors are coming in, renting or buying these flats, and then doing short-term rentals to, vacation rentals or Airbnb or whatever service they may choose to. And I think that's a major part of their frustration, and that's fair. I mean, that's
Yeah. Look, it's taking inventory out of the local housing stock, right? So people don't want to rent to year-round renters because they think they can piece out their rental on the short term and make more money. Or they charge so much to longer term rentals in order to compensate for what they could have earned on the short term rentals. And so local people find themselves without places to live or with the cost of living much too high. And it is called the Airbnb effect, although it's not just Airbnb that's done it. But as you're right, yeah, as you said, the platform, the Airbnb platform, made it that much more popular to do it, sort of amplified the problem. So there is that. There is the environmental concern. Also, there is the wear and tear on destinations. And I think we have, for several years now, with our podcast here at No Tourists Allowed, tried to offer the antidote to that, which is simply to be more mindful about your choices when you travel. We don't all have to go to the same 30 destinations around the world.
yes,
Spain is an incredible country with hundreds of wonderful destinations. You don't have to go to Barcelona. You
yes,
certainly don't only have to go to Barcelona. There are many other places in Spain to go to where you'll have the same incredible experience or better, but
and
people don't try hard enough, or the advisor, the professional travel advisor, is being a little lazy and not getting creative enough to get you to someplace where, by the way, there won't be crowds and crowds of tourists, and you'll have a better experience.
and
So it
one example, James, is Malaga, right? I mean, Malaga,
Right. That's
even though
right.
it's still a kind of tourist-centric place, I'd much prefer to go to Malaga than I would to Barcelona,
Yep.
and, there's very, well, significantly less people going to Malaga than Barcelona, as an example, and there's
And people were complaining this week in Paris, right? And they shut down the Louvre as a protest and, worried about too many tourists. And well, have you ever gone to the Louvre and gone to see the Mona Lisa in the Louvre, for example? And you're standing in a crowd of people and you're kind of far away from the painting because you're packed shoulder to shoulder in there. That's not a great experience.
yeah.
Instead, visit some beautiful chateau in the Loire Valley or go to another destination in France and have a real experience of a place, which is not just you standing in the middle of a oppressive crowd of tourists, you know? Um, so it's making the right choices, guys, to have a better experience for yourself, but also for us to be kinder to the planet and help preserve quality of life for locals. So I feel for these people. I don't think squirting water guns at tourists, who are, by the way, without those tourists, your taxes would be outrageous, or you wouldn't have public works in your city or whatever. The revenue from these people is supporting your lifestyle. It seems to me, obviously childish and petulant to squirt water guns at people. Instead, we should be having this conversation. And the governments of these places, who were complicit in all of this for years, ought to be having meaningful conversations now with the cruise lines, with travel professionals of all types, for how to spread ourselves around the planet.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the country of Spain and the region of Catalonia has, a huge budget to promote. If they don't want more people coming, they can certainly trim that back, or they can, change the lift into the number of flights into Barcelona, or the number of cruise ships that can stop
Right.
there. Yeah, it's just one of those things where when you really peel it back and you think of the economic impact, it doesn't make sense to me as an industry person for people to protest about this. But I can also see their point if I lived there. I don't think I would be protesting. I think I might be able to raise my voice in another forum that makes a little more sense, that could be a little more actionable. But it's certainly off-putting for tourists to be shouted out or shot with water guns or whatever the case may be. But
Right.
hopefully they'll get through that. And maybe they'll listen to No Tourist Allowed and hear our point of view on the matter. Maybe that'll change their mind or not. I don't know.
All right. Well, we'd love to hear what you guys think about it, our travelers. And I'd love to suggest to you that if I've had calls, I've had messages and calls from people who've seen the news this week and have asked me, should I fear going to Europe? Absolutely not. Should I feel guilty about going to these places? Absolutely not. But I do suggest you go back and look at some of our earlier podcasts at notouristallowed.com and look for our advice and our ideas for how you can travel in a way that doesn't contribute to this over tourism issue.
Yes, absolutely. Very good point. Well, James, I think that wraps up this podcast. And thank you guys for listening in. Please share the podcast to your friends and family. And make sure you go to notouristallowed.com and register for that wonderful giveaway that we're providing. And come back and listen to more podcasts as we continue our adventures through the summer.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone.